How's it going, guys? It's your boy, the Fallen Sanctum. We are back once a motherfucking again. This time with the in-depth top tier list. Now, let's start with the niche champion pool. Now, honestly, it can vary from player to player. This is what I'd consider niche, and niche not in the sense that it's like perfect in certain scenarios, but more as a niche counter pick when things look good specifically for that champion. I'd say your opponent's playing something like a Jax or an Aatrox or something that hates being easily disrupted. Gragas and Cho'Gath really good against those picks. Cho'Gath mainly used against a niche counter pick to Scion and the likes of like Rek'Sai, good into Galio and Ornn. But other than that, it doesn't really see much play because its kit a little bit outdated. Can be helpful like jungle objective wise for in the later stages of the game, but the rest of your team has to be carrying, or this pick has to like not be far behind. Gragas has fallen off since we've seen like a multitude of nerfs. Not as fantastic as he used to be, but probably still the fantastic answer into Jax. Kled, a niche answer into champions like Scion, Rek'Sai, Ornn, and is a battle heavy style top laner in the early. Kind of requires your jungler to try and play around you because you do have to take a lot of risky plays, and when you're dismounted, you are very, very, very vulnerable to ganks. Olaf, in certain scenarios, depending on like what AD carry and what mage your enemy team has, this champion can sometimes just take over the game in the mid game with like 2.5 items and just if there's nothing, because he becomes unstoppable. So he's immune to CC, so he doesn't care about Alistar, Rel, Rakan, and all that stuff, But since he is technically kiteable, if you have enough movement speed to just get away from him where he can't keep the Ragnarok up, that is like the big weakness. Is why you pair him with like the Karma, the Ivern, stuff like that. Really, it's like you're steroiding this Olaf up. So he technically becomes your AD carry. So you can run like utility AD carries like Ashe, Jhin, and stuff with an Olaf. Because it allows you to do stuff. Mundo, known for the push play style of just being able to take turrets a la Wazoo, one-shotting 80 carries with a hard steel proc, and just tanking like 150 million damage, pressing ult, healing, doesn't care about anti-heal, whatever. I have seen some more pickup play, but I want to say he's niche because the conditions kind of have to be good for Mundo in order for Mundo to thrive. If there's too much heavy CC, Mundo thrives in low CC games because if you can't pop his pill, then you can't stop Mundo from doing what Mundo wants to do. And essentially, Mundo can kind of get away with it. Kayle, a champion that scales to infinity and beyond, but it feels like the stars need to align for her to get stuff done. Now onto the bad champions. I feel like Malphite, unfortunately, even though he sees a little bit more armor and maybe he's good against like some champions or whatever, competitively speaking, I feel like he's not that great. Shen. Sorry, Malphite has one of the most horrendous mana pools in the game. The game tries to incentivize you to build suboptimally in order to have mana sustain, but the thing is, if you build mana sustain on a champion like Malphite, then you're not going to be tanky, which is what Malphite wants to do. And Malphite is one of the few champions in the game in the top lane that has armor scaling for damage. So very good into full AD comms, kind of like Rammus and stuff. Where he can become a juggernaut like Cassante, Ornn, Scion, whatever. It's really, really hard to kill when there's a big lack of percent health damage and magic damage present at the table. Shen, great for protect the carry comps, but the death of that style of team comp kind of means Shen no longer really has a place. Jace, a great bruiser, but a very high risk, high reward style top laner. Used in poke setups with champions like with jungle champions like Nidalee, and then you play some like crowd control mage in the mid lane, and then you have like Ezreal, Jhin, Caitlyn, stuff like that in the AD carry position. But it's a little bit rare to see those types of comps, so it doesn't really have a home right now. Set, just a worse version of some of the many must play and or good champions. So yeah. Kemi, outside of the Galio, Zinzao, Super Circle, Omega, Giga Chad compositions with like Kindred and stuff, doesn't really have much of a home. Has good true damage, but kind of suffers to be very useful in the mid to late game. Kind of just turns into like Lee Sin and stuff for a lot of scenarios. Now on to the good champions. We got Nar. Has pros and cons in both small and mega. In Mega is one of the best champions in the game when it comes to just flat stat lines because he gets such a momentous increase that even sometimes when it looks like he's building no damage, he will just solo bolo you if you disrespect him. Has great CC. The mini form has no CC. However, it can kite you very easily because it gains movement speed every three auto and ability procs. So the boomerang counts as a proc or whatever. He gets hyper, dealing magic damage, speeding himself up, and in ults, the hyper is a stun. So that's actually like really good. Mordekaiser, fantastic into certain engage top laners and most tanks. To be fair, can get the job done just isolating key targets for objective team fights and or just making front to backs a lot harder for the enemy team. Renekton is unfortunately one of those top laners where it looks great early and mid, and scaling towards the late game kind of looks worse and worse. He is on a timer because unfortunately Renekton does not scale that well into the late game. Yorick, not a blindable top laner, but under good circumstances. Great split pushing pressure, very good side lane pressure, okay in team fights, not really his bread and butter, but applies a decent amount of CC that can help his team do a lot of things. Works well with other champions that have terrain generation and a lot of slows. So, because Yorick isn't very fast, so Yorick needs to catch up to people. But if your teammates help you slow down the enemy team, then Yorick can be someone that's a little bit annoying because he has really decent sustain. I would put Cassante in must play, but Cassante is in a bit of a rough patch. He was super giga OP broken. Then he got nerfed to being super giga bad, and now he's back to being like just above average. Honestly, great champion for AD carry isolation or key carry isolation in team fights. But he's had so many buffs and nerfs that the results of him being able to do what the memes that were created for him for they're not the same. Rek'Sai is a worse Scion, but can have some key comps that she works better than Scion in, but definitely does lack the whole Scion is the only champion in the game that whenever he kills a minion, he gains maximum HP. Scion is like what Nasus would have been like if top laners really wanted a farming top laner. Jax has seen some buffs, some nerfs, and I feel like can be good in some comps. Comps without heavy CC. Works very well with like supports like Karma and stuff like that, because you kind of need a bit of speed, Karma, Lulu and stuff like that. So while he does love engaged supports, he can work well in a versatile amount of comps, and he does well into a good amount of the must play. But the current build path leaves a little bit to be desired, leaving to awkward mixed damage profiles where he's not proficient at doing physical or magic, but he's like Yon, where he can do like some of both, but he can't do amazing amounts for a single target. Though the biggest like shining star for Jax is he has this thing called counter strike, which means when it's active, he's immune to basic attacks and takes reduced AoE AoE damage from magic abilities. So can be very good if the AD carry is super busted, but if does fall short and is very, very kiteable. Now let's get into the most plays. Gwen, tank buster, AP, true damage, riftmaker, shenanigans. This champion's been around in the meta for a really long time. Really, really, really good at her job. And honestly, outside of champions like Rumble and Jace, there's not much good champions to keep her in check. Sometimes she can just run away with the game, but also sometimes even in matchups where she's got a +1 in terms of like laning phase and stuff, sometimes she can just fall a bit flat. Aurora, the number one counter to the main man Rumble and great into tanks. Champions like Cassante, able to bully, do a lot of damage, builds Leandris, so a little bit of a hassle for the top laners to kind of live through. And this bruisery style bunny girl is a little bit annoying to deal with. But definitely needs a comp that wants to be aggressive because Aurora is a playmaker style champion. Aatrox is your typical European Slayer. Whenever European teams see an Asian team lock in Aatrox, they just fold and they go next. But for real, Aatrox, insane sustain, great CC, great knockups. And honestly, the survivability fact, like the clutch survivability factor this champion has, if he's not affected by anti-heal, honestly, sometimes like he'll be at 2% health, he'll hit you, he'll be back at 40% or whatever. It is insane. Stacks super well with healing items. And Bessa, kind of like the love child of a lot of fantastic top laners. It's like if Kalista, Riven, Aatrox, and some other champions kind of just fused and they gave us Ambessa because she's got a Black Cleaver and an OG Eclipse on her ult passive. Yes, there's an ult passive where she just has Omnivan and a Black Cleaver. It's crazy. She's super versatile, like super mobile. Can run Grasp for Conqueror. Builds like a lot of shred anyways. Builds healing items. Honestly, very annoying to get. Very annoying to play against if you're not specifically Sion. Sion, one of the better Sion and Gwen, one of the better neutralizers into this lane. I mean, there's also Rumble that I'd say has like a positive matchup into the Ambessa, but honestly, this champion, I think this champion is just fucking overtuned. Like, I don't know what's up with 2025 and just champions that have 50 times more things than they should probably have. We have champions like Pantheon and Nasus that do very basic things, and then we have champions that like you need a university degree to understand what the hell the people at Riot were smoking when they made this champion. You got Ornn, you're classic. We get the late game, we win champion. Starting from level 13, upgrades items, one for himself at 13, and then 14, 15, 16, 17, upgrades one of each for his teammates. The upgraded items give 1,000 gold worth of extra stats, so can help in deficits, can make teams a lot better, and he scales HP, armor, and MR based at a base amount plus I think an extra 4% per masterwork item that's been given out. So I think it starts at like 10 or 12 and it goes up to like 30 to 32% extra stats once 5 items have been given out, one to himself, 4 to others. Super great engaged champion, weak to champions like Braum that can just break the ultimate, and he doesn't like new champions like Mel and stuff that can just say no. As Mel has a win wall, but a win wall that returns the ult. So, I mean, the ult's not going to do much damage, but like the whole point of the ult is, you apply the brittle, and then you got the super long CC knockup. Because the whole point of Ornn is that when he applies the brittle from his kit, the CC that he applies onto you lasts longer. Longer knockups, longer stuns, longer this, longer that. You feel me? Honestly, one of the better tank tops in the game right now. Now let's move on to Galio. Galio, honestly, he's here because Rumble exists. Yep. If Rumble was not a top lane meta champion, Galio would not be played top. Galio very often just played mid because fantastic answer into mages. And Rumble is the only mage in the top lane that one is not ranged. Gwen does true damage, so Galio unfortunately doesn't have the pew pew needed to kill her. And yeah, Aurora, but she's ranged and goes Leandris first, so Galio's life would be a living nightmare. But against Rumble, Ornn and Galio are like almost specifically made to fight these champions. That's why champions like Mordekaiser are kind of great to have in the tier list as like a secondary Rumble if you want. But great in circle comps. Galio provides MR to the team, has a taunt, a knockup, some okay wave clear. But honestly, yeah, really picked to kind of neutralize the Rumble lane. Rumble, he's an AP melee fighter that builds burn items, and his build is like 3 hunting guys items And yeah, then it's like Zonias and Void Staff or whatever. So really good at treading tanks. Really good with champions like Yon for setting up crazy cool ult combos. We call it the microwave combo because like his ult is like the equalizer. It's just a straight line of deep fire, and then Yon ults, and he knocks everyone in the line up, and you're just cooking them in the microwave, and that's like really cool. And then there's Scion, honestly, a champion that scales infinitely. Guys, there's this rune called Overgrowth. For every 8 minions or whatever, you gain HP or something, and every 100 minions, you gain percent maximum health. And then Scion has Soul Furnace, which is his W, and it's a passive that says every time a minion, a monster, a champion, or whatever dies, he gains a scalable amount of HP. It scales from the different types of creatures he kills, including champions, epic monsters, minions, and stuff like that. Works on summons too, so champions like Yorick, Malzahar, Tibbers, you know, characters with pets and whatever. He does gain utility out of like Zyra plants and stuff. And honestly, there are some AD carries that are just not capable of playing against this champion, because this champion is too giga broken. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my competitive in-depth top lane tier list, top lane champion tier list. And if you enjoyed, let me know. Let me also know if I missed out a few picks, or if you have some counter arguments to what I've said. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Ciao, bye for now.